Americans are under the misperception that AI is unregulated in our country, and that is completely untrue. We have adopted a very different approach than other entities like the European Union in embracing decentralized sectoral regulation. What that means is that we believe in regulating outcomes, not tools. And AI is a very powerful tool, but at the end of the day, it is just a tool. And unfortunately, I think we've done a very poor job of articulating the optimistic case for AI. AI is going to be this next catalyst for a huge explosion in productivity that not only lifts our gross domestic product and our economy, but lifts the economic fortunes of everyone in America. And that is an incredibly powerful thing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Humpton, CEO of Siemens USA, and you're listening to the Optimistic Outlook podcast. When AI first arrived on the scene in 2022, it was impossible to know how quickly it would be adopted by governments, businesses, and society. As it turned out, the answer was light speed. According to Stanford's 2025 AI Index report, nearly 80% of U.S. organizations were using AI in 2024. A number that I am sure is rising. Well, for Siemens, AI has enabled us to create a new industrial tech sector, combining industrial know-how with state-of-the-art technology to support our customers. The industrial tech sector will play a crucial role in revitalizing American manufacturing, a goal shared by Siemens, our partners, and of course, the U.S. government. So who better to speak to AI, its development, adoption, use, and regulation than U.S. Congressman Jay Obernolte, who has co-led congressional efforts to harness the benefits of AI while managing the risks. Representing California, Congressman Obernolte is chairman of the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee Research and Technology Subcommittee and a member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce, before which I testified in February. Last year, he spearheaded the bipartisan House report on artificial intelligence, an amazing report that looks into responsible AI adoption across sectors. And we'll get into that in a bit. And for all you pinball fans out there, the congressman is also the founder of a video game company, Farsight Studios. Let's get into our discussion. Congressman Obernolte, it's great to have you on the podcast.
It's great to see you again.
You know that Siemens was an early adopter of AI. And these days, every time I'm invited to speak, the first question is always, how are you using AI? What are the business benefits? As a longtime voice on AI in Congress, I'm sure this sounds familiar. I'd love for you to give our audience the 30,000-foot view of how you see the opportunities and risks for AI in American businesses.
Sure. Well, AI is going to be completely transformative on not just American business, but American society. And unfortunately, I think we've done a very poor job of articulating the optimistic case for AI. I mean, we as Americans have had our opinion about the downsides of AI colored by the last 50 years of science fiction and pop culture. So if you ask someone about AI, you'll get something out of the Terminator where an army of evil robots is rising up to take over the world. But you don't get the optimistic case. And the optimistic case is this. First of all, AI is already the most powerful tool for the dissemination of human knowledge that mankind has ever invented. It can teach you anything that you want to learn about in whatever learning style is optimal for you. And that is an incredible thing. It's going to completely democratize access not only to information and education, but expert opinion. And that is going to completely change our society. But what is also happening is that AI will shortly be the most powerful tool for the enhancement of human productivity that mankind has ever invented. And that is going to be incredibly empowering. I believe that that is going to create a rising wave of prosperity that literally lifts all the boats in America.
Yeah, so you're right. We're not talking about that aspect of it enough. And this is such an exciting time. When it comes to policy, then, you led the bipartisan effort in Congress to produce the House report on artificial intelligence, exploring AI use across multiple sectors from healthcare to finance to agriculture. And the report also offered a vision for responsible AI adoption, the innovation and governance that has to be balanced as this technology enters our world. When you think about the report now, with some time now under our belts. What are the highlights that really jump out to you?
As you know, our task force was charged with the job of coming up with, by the end of the year, a report proposing a federal regulatory framework for AI. So I had 24 very talented and dedicated members, 12 on each side of the aisle, and we had 25 hearings last year and delivered a 270-page report in December that fulfilled our charge. And a couple of the things, just to hit the high points, Americans are under the misperception that AI is unregulated in our country, and that is completely untrue. We have adopted a very different approach than other entities like the European Union in embracing decentralized sectoral regulation. And let me break that down for your listeners here. What that means is that we believe in regulating outcomes, not tools. And AI is a very powerful tool, but at the end of the day, it is just a tool. And when you're thinking about the risks of AI deployment, which is what you have to understand to be able to talk about what our obligation is as regulators to mitigate those risks, it matters very much what you're going to do with that AI. And an algorithm that is unacceptably risky in one usage context, like, for example, AI in a medical device that's going to be implanted in someone's body, I mean, to name a particularly high risk deployment, could be completely benign in another usage, like in a video game, right? Because the same algorithm, unacceptably risky in one usage, completely benign in another. And the sectoral regulators know this. So we already have AI being used in contexts like medical devices. In fact, a lot of people are shocked when I tell them that the FDA, which obviously is our regulator that has authority over the regulation of medical devices, has already processed over 1,000 applications for the use of AI in medical devices. And by most stakeholder feedback that we got, they're doing a very effective job of it. So that's one of the things in our report that we are embracing, is to continue this decentralized sectoral approach to regulation. And here's the reason why. The European Union has taken a very different approach. They've centralized everything. They have their sectoral regulators, but they're creating a new regulator for AI. And so you're going to require another license from that regulator for anything but the lowest risk usage of AI. And we think that that's the wrong approach, because we think it's a lot easier to teach the FDA, for example, what it might not already know about AI than it would be to teach a brand new entity everything the FDA has learned over decades of ensuring patient safety. And that's true of other sectoral regulators too. NHTSA is already dealing with the use of AI in autonomously driven vehicles. The FAA is dealing with the use of AI in aircraft avionics, and the list goes on and on and on. So that is the approach that we are advocating for in the report.
I think that makes a world of sense. What's also interesting is when we think about it from an end user's perspective, often we're not even aware of the AI's existence. I mean, I'll take examples of our, mapping algorithms that we use, and frankly, just our simple search capabilities we've all become accustomed to. I think many of us are not even aware that's a separate thing. Our feeling is this is the first technology that actually comes to people instead of people having to go to the technology in order to incorporate it.
Right. And you know what? I think it's interesting that no one has come up with a federal definition in statute for what AI actually means, what AI is. And that's because AI is in the eye of the beholder, really, what it is. Is it a neural network? Is an algorithm that makes a computer seem like a person? Everyone has a different definition. And so to me, AI is anything that you interact with a machine, but it seems like you're interacting with a human. And when you boil it down to that, you can see why AI is going to be so impactful, because it's going to create a way that allows us a very human interface for dealing with complicated technology.
Yes, and I will tell you, I was thrilled to have the opportunity to testify before your committee, talking about the AI we're introducing. You were really delving into the impact of AI on manufacturing. And we had been really trying to draw a distinction between what we called at the time consumer AI, the AI that we're using in our private lives, in our commercial lives, in our entertainment lives, and the AI that's being introduced into the world of manufacturing, where we have control over the data that's used to train the foundational models, where we have control over how that is used and human intervention, in the manufacturing environment. I was thrilled that day to have you follow up with a question where it was clear you were thinking this way toward the sectoral approaches. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you and other legislators about this idea of this emerging industrial tech sector.
And it's an excellent point that a sectoral approach to regulation allows you to differentiate between those two uses. Because the thing about industrial AI is that the environment it's operating in is very constrained. So if you imagine AI controlling a couple of robot arms on a manufacturing floor, right? And you've got the caution tape laid out around it to make sure humans don't walk in there. And the robot arms are just going about, building a widget. That's a great example of industrial AI. Well, I mean, what we as regulators would do when evaluating the risks of that is to say, what are the worst things that can happen? What are, as the lawyers say, the parade of horribles? And what are we going to do to mitigate those? Well, because the environment is constrained, the things that can go wrong are much more narrow. And so, as long as you are doing quality control on the widget that the AI is building, you've really controlled for a lot of the risks of AI deployment in that case. And if you contrast that to a more consumer application of AI, like in a chatbot, well, you have no idea. Could the chatbot help someone build a biological weapon? Could it cause a teen to adopt a suicidal ideation? I mean, a lot of things could be true of that. Could it exhibit some really troubling racial biases? These are all things that we worry about. But because the deployment of AI in the consumer context is so much more open-ended, we have to worry about those things. Where industrial AI, it's much more simple to get your arms around.
And I've often heard you talk about the importance of public-private partnerships for advancing American AI leadership. I mean, as we look at this landscape, one of our national goals is to maintain that leadership role. And as I recall, the AI report has a great section discussing the importance of government, university, industry ecosystems for R&D. I'd love to hear more about your view of how businesses and government can be working together to develop and expand the ecosystems.
Well, I think it's going to take all of us working together and pushing in the same direction to maintain US dominance in AI development and deployment. And one of the things that we are very worried about is that there will be a lack of competition in frontier AI development. So it's gotten so expensive in terms of compute and data to develop a frontier AI algorithm that we're concerned that only the biggest tech companies will be able to have the resources to do that. And we think that that's very unhealthy, in particular when it comes to two areas, which are academia and entrepreneurialism, because those are two of the things that have really driven advances in American scientific discovery over the last 100 years. And we want to make sure that that tradition continues. In particular, when you talk about academia, having research done in academic settings comes along with some very desirable things like transparency, publication, peer review. Those are things that you lose if that research is done only behind closed doors by the biggest corporations. So one of the things that we do in the report is to recommend the codification of a pilot program that we're currently running called NARE, the National AI Research Resource, that makes pools of compute and data available to academics and to entrepreneurs to make sure that that research continues to be done outside of the big corporations. And we think that that's very important. And by the way, to make the point, I'm a small government conservative myself. All of these resources are donated. All the federal government does is to be the gatekeeper in arranging access to them. And that's because the purveyors of these resources like compute share our goal of making sure that entrepreneurs and academics continue to have access to them.
Yeah, it's truly this innovation ecosystem that's brought the US to this point of global leadership. And it's going to be interesting to see how we preserve that lead at a time where the resources are so expensive, requiring energy and infrastructure. And so this truly is a race, and it's an exciting one. I'd love to switch our focus for just a minute and talk about the impact AI will have on people. And you've heard me say in my own testimony that it's our belief that AI is not going to replace people. We know that with every wave of new tools and technology that have been introduced, it's actually expanded what's humanly possible. And this is going to make people more productive. Just the way you described it earlier, this wave of productivity and capability is truly exciting. And it's funny because I'll just share with you one quick story about the use of AI in our own operations. We had researchers working on how to put a co-pilot into a manufacturing environment, and they had a factory in Germany where there was a first and second shift operating. Researchers went in, they installed the new co-pilot. People started to use it. They did satisfaction surveys. The feedback from both first and second shift was great. People are loving using this new technology, but they noticed something odd in the data. Second shift was using it more than first shift. Now, why was that? So the researchers actually went in to do interviews, and second shift said, "Oh, that's easy." In the olden days, we would have had to call first shift. If something had gone wrong during second shift, we had to call the expert. Here it is, the middle of the night. We don't want to bother them. And we use the co-pilot. This is the kind of thing where, yeah, it's absolutely changing the way we work, but it's truly making people more productive and raising the level of expertise. It's such a thrill. I'm curious, are you hearing stories like this from all over the place?
Oh, very much, very much. We have a chapter in our task force report on education and workforce issues. And the point that we make very strongly is that we think that, as you say, AI is going to create a lot more jobs than it displaces, but it will be disruptive, as new technologies always are. Most recently, the internet, but going all the way back to the advent of the printing press. Uh, Technologies are disruptive, but they have created far more jobs than they have disrupted. So we as a society are going to have an obligation to, first of all, equip our young people with the tools that they need to succeed in an AI-powered workspace. We're going to have a commitment to reskilling, because there will be some jobs that are displaced and people are going to need help to be reskilled in other fields. We're going to need to beef up their social safety net to make sure that no one falls through the cracks. But at the end of the day, we are going to create more jobs than we displace. And I think that a lot of the angst around this topic is misplaced. And I'll give you a specific example. From my home state of California, we had a very disruptive strike of Hollywood scriptwriters last year. And one of the central issues of the strike was that the scriptwriters were objecting to the use of AI by movie studios for the automated writing of movie scripts. And, kind of unspoken in this was the assumption that greater use of AI would create fewer jobs for Hollywood scriptwriters. But I thought about that, and I thought, how short-sighted is that? Because when I look at the future 10 years from now, I envision a future where I go on Netflix and I watch not a show that was created once for everybody, but a show that's created by generative AI in real time just for me, based on what I feel like watching today and what I've enjoyed watching in the past. We're going to have the technology to do that. And I'm sure that there are going to be innovative entrepreneurs that take advantage of that. So in a world where that's true, that's many, many more jobs for scriptwriters. And yes, it will be scriptwriters that know how to use AI to empower their productivity, but still many, many more jobs. And that holds true of lots of different fields. So, I mean, you really can't articulate some of the new jobs that's going to be created. I'll give you another example. There is an annual survey done of graduating high school seniors. And one of the questions that is asked of them is, what career do they most aspire to? And when I was growing up, I was at the end of the Apollo space program. The number one career that young people aspired to was astronaut. We all wanted to be an astronaut. Very few of us actually became astronauts, but it drove an entire generation of Americans into the STEM fields, which was incredibly useful for our country. So can you guess last year what the number one answer of graduating high school seniors in America was?
I don't have a clue.
Social media influencer. So ignoring for a moment the somewhat disturbing things that says about our young people, Think about this. Think about how you would articulate to someone before the advent of the internet what a social media influencer is, what they do, and why they provide a value to society that people will pay them for. Think about how difficult it would be to have that conversation. Just you don't have the vocabulary unless you understand the internet and the way that it has brought people together and connected people and the way that people live their lives through the internet now, right? Okay, so now fast forward, there's going to be an entire spectrum of jobs that are created because of AI. And we don't even have the vocabulary now to describe what those jobs are going to be. But we can look back through history, not just the internet, but the Industrial Revolution, the printing press. All of these technological revolutions that have created displacement, but also enabled human success and created many, many more jobs than they've displaced. So I am 100% confident that's going to be true of AI as well.
And we just can't even imagine what it's going to look like. I love it. In fact, you're the perfect person for me to ask a question. I've been often asked by parents what advice I would give for their children. What should they study in order to be prepared for the future? And I've been saying to people, tell your kids to play their video games. What do you think about this theory? This idea that, hey, get those kids used to a human machine interface that maybe is different than the old keyboard. Any thoughts?
I would say become accustomed to being able to articulate to a machine how to solve a problem and then having the machine go do it. And we used to call that computer programming. Now, I think that when we say programming, we are referring to more what my generation used to call scripting. I mean, it's a much higher level because when I started programming, it was in a very low level language called assembly language, which is the language that chips speak. And then later we got higher level languages like C, and then later we got object oriented languages. And, it's continued to go on and on. With AI, it's going to be just another layer above that where you'll be able to kind of procedurally articulate to AI what you want it to do. And the people that are the most effective in using AI will be the ones that are the best at articulating what they want the AI to do and how to do it. And those are going to be incredibly useful skills to have. But let me also pair that with something else. As someone who has hired, thousands and thousands of people in my career, both in the private sector and for the last 20 years in government office, I can tell you this: please, kids, learn how to write. Learn how to write. That is one of the most in-demand job skills right now, and young people, just for whatever reasons, are not graduating with the ability to be able to take something that they want to say and communicate it. And that's going to be still very important with AI. It's interesting because there's this big this huge angst with school teachers about kids that use AI to write essays, right? And it's almost like the debate that we had when I was growing up about whether or not we should be allowed to use calculators to do long division. And we were told, no, 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 you have to, learn this arcane process and with decimal points and how you carry things. And, it's very, procedural. Because it's important for you to know this. But, we had the last laugh because it turns out now everyone carries a calculator around with them as part of their cell phone in their pocket every day. And probably no one knows how to do long division anymore once they become an adult, just because we don't use it. So, I mean, I think that AI will be the same thing where, we come to appreciate that there are things that AI does for us that free us up to think about concepts on a higher level. So instead of thinking about, how am I going to articulate this particular point, you'll be thinking about how am I going to persuade? You and I are having a human-to-human conversation. How am I going to convince you that my point of view is right? I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you, this voyage of discovery that I took, to try and get you to come along with me. And then I might use AI to help me with the nuts and bolts of making my case. The people that are going to be most successful using AI will know how to do that.
The 1980s version of me that, used computer punch cards is absolutely embracing this new era we're entering. And even beyond that, I wonder whether on some level will a liberal arts education come back in vogue. In speaking to educators, what we're learning is there are visions of, the idea of personalized education, because each of us can have AI tutors who learn our learning style and then are able to bring us along a path at our own speed. There are just so many possibilities available to us that, I mean, it brings me to what I love to ask each of my guests at the end of this podcast. I love to learn from my guests about their optimistic outlook. Now, as a member of Congress, you have an incredible opportunity to influence American innovation. What are you most optimistic about in this new era of AI?
One, let me talk about what you just brought up, this topic of education. Where is a liberal arts education going to come back? And my answer is yes and no. Uh, I think that AI is going to completely revolutionize our approach to education. So think about it. For the last 150 years, we have been kind of embracing this model of education that says that when you're young, you go acquire this thing that we call an education. And you do that by, starting in high school, and then you go to college, and then maybe you keep going to graduate school. But anyway, I mean, like, you accumulate all of this knowledge, and then you graduate and you use that education through the rest of a career. And if you think about it, especially through the lens of AI empowered learning, that is completely outdated for two reasons. First of all, we are going to have the opportunity to be lifelong learners. This will be something that we can learn anything we want, anytime we want. So why on earth would we devote all of this time when we're young just to learning that stuff when it's something that we're going to do our whole lives? But the other thing is that there is going to be a necessity to embracing lifelong education. The pace of technology is just going to continue to accelerate, and there is going to be no possible way, if it isn't even true now, that one can acquire everything one needs to know about a lifetime of being in a career at the very beginning and not have a commitment to learning as they go along. So, I mean, I think that we're going to be starting on our careers much earlier, but being empowered by AI to continue to learn as we go, and to embrace the fact that, the statistics say right now that the average senior graduating high school this year will have 3 careers in their lifetime. Not 3 different jobs, 3 different employers, 3 different careers, which is an incredible thing. But then, you asked for the optimistic case. Going back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago with productivity and how AI is going to enable this explosion of human productivity. Think about this. In the 250 years that the United States has been a country, if you go back and you look at our economic history, you'll find that every major expansion of our gross domestic product has been heralded by a corresponding increase in the productivity of our workforce. I mean, literally, the two are tied together. It's the productivity of the American workers that fuel the growth of our economy. And think about this. For the last 6 years, since the beginning of COVID, we have been in a gradual decline in worker productivity. So I think that AI is going to be this next catalyst for a huge explosion in productivity that not only lifts our gross domestic product and our economy, but lifts the economic fortunes of everyone in America. And that is an incredibly powerful thing.
Congressman, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm thrilled that you were able to spend time with us today to share your perspectives. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Absolutely. That was fun. Anytime.
Thank you so much to Congressman Obernolte for sharing his perspective with us. It's an exciting time for AI. As we've discussed, this technology is critical to regrowing American manufacturing. It's critical to increasing worker productivity and solidifying America's technical and economic leadership. And the way we'll get there is through partnership, bringing together policymakers, industry leaders, investors, schools, and innovators to achieve responsible AI adoption and deployment. To our listeners looking to learn more about AI, we've included the bipartisan House report on artificial intelligence in our show notes. I encourage you to take some time with it and let us know what stands out to you. Leave a comment on your favorite podcast platform, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or email me at optimist.us@siemens.com. Thanks for listening.
Please follow us on social media and on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in.